Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to round 4 of season 7 of our F124 Haas Driver Career Mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here for the Japanese Grand Prix at the iconic Suzuka. If you missed out on the last video that went live a couple of days ago from Albert Park, Australia, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. We had a pretty good race once again. Kind of Bahrain is starting to feel like a bit of a distant memory, although I did bottle qualifying, so we ended up with a last question mark challenge, and well, it ended up being a P2 finish, so our second runner-up spot in a row this season. Oscar Piastri, though, took the win on the very last lap with a 3-wide daring overtake against myself and George Russell there. Even Charles Leclerc managed to sneak to P3 come the end of the race as well. It still means Russell has a 7-point lead at the top of the table ahead of Charlie Boy, with Oscar Piastri and myself there a little bit further behind. Teo Porcher having a really good consistent start to the year up in P5 ahead of Lando Norris and Enzo Fittipaldi. Constructors-wise, we're looking a bit lonely in P4 at the moment. Pierre Gasly, I don't believe, has scored points since the opening round. Yeah, 2 11th place finishes after that 8th place in Bahrain as well. So fingers crossed he can try and pull his finger out over the next couple of races as well. Of course, if you're new, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed to the channel. We're trying to hit 140,000 subs at the moment. And of course, obviously, if you want to help support us just a little bit more, you can click that join button down below as well. £1 a month, you get early access to all the videos here as well, which hopefully, if we start getting some F125 news soon, could be quite handy as well there. But we've also got a secret meeting before we come into this weekend, so I'm just intrigued to see who wants to offer us a contract, and it appears to be McLaren. Now, we're not going to do a Season 8 of this series, so it is kind of irrelevant, but very, very interesting. They've got a good lineup, double back-to-back Constructors Champions as well in this series, and they want to, obviously I beat them back in Season 5, didn't I, at the end of that campaign, so they want the one man that seemed to be able to beat them pretty damn consistently. Anyway, we'll lead them on, we'll continue talks, but let's head then out onto the circuit.
This is a circuit where sometimes you see something truly exceptional behind the wheel. We've seen it from Vettel, we've seen it from Verstappen. It is a remarkable place to watch a car at speed. Welcome to Suzuka. We're qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix.
Well, our qualifying performances this year have not been fantastic, and honestly, Japan is not the place where I expect them to suddenly get a whole lot better. This is one of probably the AI's best circuits inside F124, but let's just hope we can do something here as we head into one-shot qualifying. Of course, I've tried to run with as little aerodynamics as I possibly can here. The AI runs super low aero around this venue, so I've tried to compromise our setup to be a bit more competitive with them in a straight line, but hopefully we are still going to be good through the S's as well. That was me, Decna 1. Completely flat out. Try and use all of the track width on the exit. Must admit that the updated version of Suzuka I do really like inside the games. It is certainly a much more enjoyable venue than in, kind of a few years ago when they made the updates to it. So far this lap actually looking alright at the moment as we make our way down in towards Spoon. We are not that far behind George Russell. Nice and tidy on the curbs, both on entry and exit. The curbs there will absolutely send you spinning if you hit them wrong. As we make our way then down in towards the iconic 130R. We are 15 thousandths away from Russell at the moment, so all we really need to do is nail the line through the Casio triangle. Braking nice and early, hit the apex through the first part, attack the curbing through the second, at the final corner up towards the line. Surely, after I said all that, it's P1.
Simply lovely, huh?
Well, there we are then. McLaren came a knock-in this weekend, but we have beaten both of their cars here to take our first pole position of the season. I think we only took one pole last season, so that has been a fantastic effort in the end. Oscar Piastri will line up P4 ahead of Charles Leclerc there with Alonso just ahead of Fittipaldi and Pierre Gasly, so happy to see our teammate up inside the top 10. After we've given Teo Porcher a lot of praise in the early races, P10 I'm sure he will be a bit disappointed with just behind Lewis Hamilton there. Neither Red Bull inside your top 10 come the end of qualifying either, but we have got a great opportunity.
Welcome along then to the magnificent Suzuka International Circuit, a stone's throw away from Issei Bay in the beautiful Japanese countryside. What surprises lie in wait for us today in the Japanese Grand Prix? It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Firestarter lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Norris, Oscar Piastri, Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Fittipaldi, Gasly, Hamilton, Teo Porcher, Sargent, Perez, Behrman, Stroll, Ricciardo, Vesti, Tsunoda, Ocon, Joe, and Ayumu Iwasa. That's it then. It's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race.
Well, here we are then down on the grid, ready for the Japanese Grand Prix, and very interesting conversations there between Alex Jakes even, and Anthony Davidson. I'm not going to worry too much about, anything going on with the team anyway. We've been carrying this team for long enough now. If they want to start kind of throwing shade at me, then, they're welcome to try and see what happens then. But ready on the grid, 27 laps ahead of us here from Suzuka, and my big goal is try and hold that lead in towards turn 1. 5 red lights. Oh, mighty long hole, but it is going to be lights out, and away we go there as we will try and cover off George Russell in towards that first turn. I think everybody towards the front of the order there got a pretty even start as Lando Norris tries to go around the outside of his teammate there. If they can go wheel to wheel in towards the S's, that could give us a nice early advantage here through those first couple of corners, and that's exactly what they've done. Neither Russell or Lando are willing to give up on that one, and immediately then we've got a 1 second margin at the front of the order there. Oscar Piastri forced to watch his old team's cars battle with each other and watch me sail off into the distance early on. Well, I mean, the starts go on this game. I don't normally get many particularly good ones, but that one certainly up there as one of my best inside this title. It's just through the hairpin I really struggle with traction against the AIs. We've already got yellows out. There you go. I think it was just the concertinaing up down at that first, down at the hairpin on lap 1. Everybody, well, apart from me, apparently, is all very bunched up together. But now Norris straight up into P2 then, clearly trying to go aggressive on this opening lap. Has not had a great start to the year. He's definitely a long way further back in the championship than he would really want to be. As you can see him closing in on us then down in towards 130R. Luckily, Suzuka is one of the best tracks in this game to be leading at. There's only one DRS zone, and although DRS is technically enabled on lap 2, the AI don't get to use it until lap 3, so it works really nicely for me, but not for very long, admittedly. Lando Norris again then trying to close in on me. I mean, how has that McLaren got the straight line speed? He just showed up in my rearview mirror there, but decided he would tuck in. It's a wing mirror, but I'm going to call it a rearview mirror. But yeah, just decided to tuck back in towards 130R. Will he now be able to get a run on me, though, back in towards turn 1, as we will have to try and swing defensive from him. So everybody setting fastest laps of the Grand Prix. He would try and just hang alongside there, and again, Lando, I mean, he could try and make it work around the outside. It's certainly not an impossible move, as we've seen from a former McLaren driver. But Lando, maybe not that brave. Oh, Lando Norris again trying to make something happen, and this time around George Russell makes it 3 wide in towards 130R. That was a little bit scary. Luckily, Russell again backed out of it, but I made sure I tried to give enough room for 2 cars on the inside there. I've seen a couple of moments in Super Formula where cars have gone 3 wide through 130R. That doesn't go well for them, so I'm certainly not expecting it to work for us, especially with F124's AI. But yeah, perhaps that's given Lando Norris a little bit of a spook, or a bit of a hurry up there as well. Russell makes a bit of a mistake down towards turn 1. And Oscar Piastri, always happy just to pounce in and take opportunities. And he will move into 3rd. Oh no, Lando that time round just got the run a little bit earlier than I was expecting. And finally the McLaren, whoa! will make it through into the lead. And Oscar Piastri might be able to try and move through and up into P2 then, as Lando, when he did try and park that car rather awkwardly through turn 1. Weaving our way though into the S's though again. Oscar Piastri, he's not one to take big risk. It's what really worked for him last season was he didn't make any enemies. And that kind of allowed him to score big points quite frequently in the end. The only other thing I'm a little bit nervous about is Lando Norris breaking away. It's the first time in AI he's had clear air here, so he might just immediately get us out of the DRS. The car doesn't feel slow necessarily, but it definitely doesn't feel as quick as I'd like it to be. Okay, now we're in a bit of a trouble as we get to 1/3 distance here. Oscar Piastri now, we're going to have to let him by just so we can try and stay in the range of Lando here and maybe bring us both back towards him. Oscar Piastri, that gap almost a second though still, so he's going to have to really fly along. We've got the pace when we're out in front, but the AI just have more of it. But I think now then, as we get to half distance, we are going to start seeing some cars heading to the pit lane. Will we see Lando Norris in though, or will it be George Russell that kind of gets that priority? I guess that's the good thing for, you know, teams like Ferrari, Mercedes and ourselves still, is we have one kind of clear #1 driver that can kind of enjoy these perks, as clearly McLaren favouring their driver leading the World Championship, as that was close on the way into the pit lane there, nudged the grass on the way in, so locked up the front tyres there, but able to get it slowed down anyway, as Logan Sargent, he'll have a nosebleed running up in P5, he's that high up the order, but of course, why not, eh? There goes Oscar Piastri. We've come out behind George Russell as well, I mean pretty much in his diffuser apparently, which is something I didn't expect to be saying today. You don't say we had an issue, Mark. I love it when he tells you that after you've come out of the pit lane. He's like, I've just watched it all happen, and you're still giving me pain in the process there. As Oscar Piastri couldn't quite come out ahead of Awasa then, so he might bunch back up with him. The only other issue I've realised, I'm going to struggle on fuel. So we might have to start lifting and coasting at some point this afternoon, because I think at the rate we're going, we're going to be half a lap short by the end. Well, being stuck behind a Sauber is not what anybody wants inside this game, as there we go, everybody else into the pit lane. Oscar Piastri trying to have a look for a move down the inside of Awasa then. They make their way through 130R. Russell just waiting in the background there, and maybe waiting a bit too much, as we will get around him through the Casio Triangle. Luckily, Oscar Piastri will have some DRS then, but I think Lando Norris, yeah, he's gone now. I think Lando, it's probably safe to assume he's going to win this race, the position he's in right now, but to the inside of Oscar Piastri there, try and catch him out a little bit, and that's exactly what we've done. Here comes Oscar Piastri once again then to return the favour back towards turn 1. What is he doing? Just absolutely sits on the apex there through that first corner, so we tried to have a look down on the outside, a little bit of wheel banging, and clearly now, you know, as a world champion, he wants to try and get the elbows out a little bit more, and, well, he clearly doesn't worry about making enemies this year. I mean, he is the one with the target on his back, as we've just got a quarter of a lap's worth of spare fuel in reserves. So we've got to try and sit behind him here, I think, for a few laps, and just keep the fuel flow kind of balanced. Well, 5 laps to go then from Suzuka, and I don't know what it is, but it always seems like whenever Lando Norris wins a Grand Prix on this game, he's one of the only drivers that can absolutely dominate a Grand Prix, like get away from everybody else and win by, you know, sort of 5-6 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but is a huge margin inside this game. But yeah, it just seems like he never seems to win like the squeakers and things like that. The ones where he just about gets across the line. He only ever seems to win dominant races. He needs more of those, though. That's been what's really cost him the last couple of seasons, is getting those big results against other drivers. But today, yeah, nobody has been able to challenge him. I'm starting to get just a little bit more confident, though, against Oscar Piastri, especially as we're not really having to worry as much about the fuel anymore. Still got about 0.2 laps spare. We started with a lap extra in this Grand Prix, just FYI, so we've definitely got through a lot of that. So Russell there temporarily was in P3, but we will get the power down off the hairpin. But I'm just starting to try and plan an attack against Oscar towards the end of this race for what could be our third second-place finish in a row. I am forever the bridesmaid. Well, step one then on my master plan towards the end of the afternoon is try and get both Russell and Alonso at the DRS range as well there, so we can try and close in as much as we can on Oscar Piastri. That gap to the McLaren up to over 0.8 of a second here, so this is working fairly well at the moment. He will have the DRS back in towards turn 1, and now we are definitely starting to use a little bit more fuel than I would like to. New fastest lap of the day. No idea how we've just managed that, but as we get back in towards that first corner then, all over the back of Oscar Piastri once more. In fact, just making a little bit of contact with his rear diffuser. The gap to Russell does open up to over a second temporarily, but he will immediately rein it back in. Maybe has got an idea of what I'm trying to do now, and I'll have to really push that second McLaren. Let's see if we can finally get a run then on Oscar Piastri. I've spent most of this Grand Prix staring at the rear end of that Ferrari. Are we going to be able to try and look for a move back in towards turn 1? We are going to... Oh, not quite get there. Oh, that was so close. Oscar Piastri that time around. I mean, he was perfectly within his rights to just turn in for an apex, because I certainly didn't warrant any room on the inside, but that could have been an aeroplane crash at T1. Well, I mentioned it early on how weird it is around this circuit, that obviously effectively you don't get the DRS until lap 3. It's also quite weird because you basically got to try and go for a move into the last lap rather than on the final lap around this venue as well. Then, as once more we will pick up the DRS off of Oscar Piastri. Just want to make sure I got a bit more battery this time round for the run in towards someone there, is attacking those curbs through the Casio triangle for the penultimate time there. Open up the DRS. Use that ERS on the run back down towards turn 1. Oscar Piastri this time round, oh, will be aware of us. He'll try and squeeze me though, but it does not matter. Getting the run around the outside. We will way fire it in too much though, as we make our way in towards the S's on this last lap there. Oscar Piastri tried to fight back against it, but luckily we will make it through there and up then finally back into P2 of this Grand Prix. Starting to struggle a little bit with the front left tyre temperature. That might become an issue on this last lap as well, because we know the AI will still be quick around the rest of the venue there, but trying to defend from Oscar Piastri and George Russell. Lando Norris, he will have no idea what is going on behind him towards the end of the afternoon, because he has just got open road and what has been a dominant drive from the McLaren man. Didn't quite get the qualifying effort he would have wanted, but clearly focused that car setup on race pace here, and nobody has been able to challenge our fellow Brit this weekend. He will become our 4th different winner of the year after Leclerc, Russell, obviously Oscar Piastri last weekend, and now obviously Lando there is using the rest of our battery just to deny Oscar a chance down in towards 130R. Lando Norris will win the Japanese Grand Prix and remind everybody that he is still a threat for the title. At the final corner, it is our 3rd P2 in a row.
Out of the last corner for the last time, Lando Norris is victorious.
Well, it all came good in the end for them, but it wasn't an easy start. Not the most straightforward of days, but I think it shows great strength in an athlete as a driver when you can overcome a day like this and walk away still with a victory.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
Well, there we are then. Lando Norris takes the victory ahead of myself and Oscar Piastri there, and I didn't realise that we'd snatched that fastest lap by just 0.02 of a second come the checkered flag there. So that bonus point, as proven last season, could be very, very helpful come the end of the year there. Russell finishes 4th ahead of Alonso and Charles Leclerc. Fittipaldi ahead of Gasly even, with Hamilton and Sargent rounding out our top 10. Happy to see Gasly getting more points on the board after a rough couple of races as well there. That's the first time this season that Haas have had both cars inside the points. Disappointment for Teo Pourchaire, but after that lap 1 to still come back and recover to 16th place, so I think he can be pretty happy with himself. And it's a learning experience for the young Frenchman as well there. Championship-wise then, Russell still holds the lead at the top there, but the gap slashed to just 9 points ahead of Oscar Piastri. A further 2 back Charles Leclerc, and a further 2 behind him is myself then. So 13 points covering your top 4 after 4 Grand Prix. Lando still ahead then of Enzo Fittipaldi, who gets the jump on Teo. Hamilton still ahead of Perez and Alonso, with Logan Sargent still just ahead of Pierre Gasly and both of those V-carbs. Constructors-wise, we do close in the gap on Mercedes as well. McLaren, though, now with a 29-point lead at the top of the table. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 returns, ready for the Chinese Grand Prix, and of course our first sprint weekend of the season.